Hello and welcome back to another edition of Mr. Matchett's Lecture Notes. I'd like for us to start today with our next topic, which is medieval Christian Europe from basically the end of the Roman Empire to almost the eve of European exploration. So if you are interested in page numbers, this is in the Pearson textbook, pages 44 through 110. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the medieval period, and so the first lesson deals with the early Middle Ages. We're going to be looking at the Byzantine Empire and what that was, where it was located, why it was significant. We're going to look at why the fall of Rome was a significant event in Western history. We're going to look at a group of tribes from Germany, the different Germanic tribes that were coming in from Central Europe into the Roman Empire, and how they created a new political system, new social system, but also was connected with the previous Roman period. We're also going to look at one group in particular called the Franks, and one of their rulers named Charlemagne, who did much to unify Western Europe. Unfortunately, after he died, things fell apart. So we're going to deal more with that with the second lesson. So I do want you to be familiar with the Byzantine Empire. It is located on the eastern half of the Mediterranean Sea, from Greece through Asia Minor, down through the Middle East, and across North Africa. The capital city of this empire was Byzantium. When Constantinople was founded by the Emperor Constantine, he renamed this older town to Constantinople, the city of Constantine. So it's located in a very strategic area. You're going to be looking at this with your map. It's on the Bosphorus Straits, which controls access to the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea. And so this was a very, very good location for an empire, for a capital city. It also represented a combining of Greek and Roman and Christian culture together. The most important of the rulers of the Byzantine Empire was a man named Justinian. He became emperor in the year 527, was very significant. In fact, he was the last and the greatest of the Byzantine emperors. He almost reconquered the Roman Empire and restored it. During his lifetime, the Mediterranean region was pretty much restored. He constructed what at the time was the largest church in the world, called the Hagia Sophia. He wanted it to rival Solomon's temple, and he believed that he had achieved it. And we're going to look at some pictures of the Hagia Sophia. He also was responsible for developing a legal code, collecting all the laws of the Roman world and putting them into a systematic form that became quite significant. And the Mediterranean region to this day, particularly in Italy and in Spain, still use the code that Justinian put together. And he also is noted for a very remarkable wife, Theodora, who was his backbone, really. And he would not have been as successful without her. We're going to talk a little bit more about her in class, but basically she came from a family of circus performers. Her father was a bear trainer that deserted her and her mother, and this girl came up through the ranks the hard way, but she definitely achieved success. One of the reasons why the Byzantine Empire ultimately collapsed was that they no longer had really good leaders, and they also were in a position that, while it was good for trade, it also attracted a lot of attention. So there's a whole series of invasions that ultimately culminated in the conquest of the Byzantine Empire by the Ottoman Turks in 1453. In Western Europe, this is a period called the Dark Ages sometimes, or the Middle Ages. So roughly between the fall of Rome in 476 to the beginnings of the Age of Discovery. So the Middle Ages, medieval, the Dark Ages is the early part of this period. The western part of the empire collapsed fairly quickly. The eastern part continued for a long time, but because the western side was subjected to invasions, it fell apart and actually broke away from the eastern part. It just, by the year 500, it pretty much was gone. Of the groups that were coming in and invading, the most significant group were the Franks. They settled in what's now modern France. They ultimately were united by a king by the name of Clovis, who adopted Roman Catholic Christianity united all these tribes together. We're going to talk in the slides about Charles Martel, who was not of Clovis's family, but was significant in holding the Franks together in the face of Muslim invasions coming up from Spain. And I want you to know something about Charlemagne, who was the greatest of these leaders. He actually was declared emperor of the, I don't know why this is repeating like this, emperor of the Romans by the Pope. So he brought the Roman Empire back together. You can see from this, this map that is quite an extensive territory that makes up modern day France, Switzerland, northern parts of Italy, and parts of Germany. Unfortunately, when he died, his sons were not very competent people, and so his empire just collapsed from being divided in inept leadership. And there also were a series of invaders that were coming into Western Europe during this time period, particularly the Vikings, who were very, very devastating to order. And this lack of order, this lack of structure, this time of crisis led to the development of a type of government called feudalism. And so we're going to talk about that more in lesson 2. So it's important to realize also that Western culture, which is largely our culture, is a combination of 3 different cultures. Roman culture from the Roman world, Christian culture, and then the culture of the Germans. So as we start to get into this topic, you're going to see how those things were interconnected. So I believe this is it. Yep. And so we will cover lesson 2 next. As always, if you have any questions, just run them by me. Okay, thank you.